the Akron team, just from film and stuff this week?
Well, I think they, from a defensive standpoint, I think they present, multiple fronts and a bunch of different coverages that I think certainly can give you a lot of trouble, I think, in the preparation standpoint. And I think you see a group that plays really, really hard and really can run and runs around to the football.
How do you go about evaluating their first 2 weeks, just such different games? How do you kind of cut to the core of what they do well and make, study it that way?
Well, I think for us, it's always you have to look at the scores and those kind of things. I think is something we never really pay attention to much. I think it is you have to really take an evaluation of what are they trying to do defensively, what do they do that would hurt, particularly your base offensive things first from a schematic standpoint, and who are the players that you have to be certainly extra concerned about as you go in from a matchup standpoint, and then you go into the overall scheme as opposed to, hey, where do we think that we can have the ability to affect the defense. So this week is unlike any other week. It's always about what do you see on the videotape, and that's about it.
Speaking of, what did you see on the videotape of Sean Foster?
I think Sean played really hard. I think I was very impressed with his retention. I think going in the first time in a really big environment, that's really his first time of really playing a sustained amount of snaps. I was impressed with him. I thought he did a really good job.
What's his ability to play on the right side? Maybe a logical, I'm assuming incorrectly. I don't know that he's going to end up starting there at some point. What's that mean for Meeker? Can he play other positions in there too?
Well, I think both of those guys have some flexibility, and I think still we're still trying to find what's the best way to play, our best guys, and what are the best ways to move those guys around within the year. I think the one thing that is the way the offense is played now, and particularly maybe our style of offense, as well as many others, is you play a lot of snaps. Mm-hmm. And I've always felt better with the more guys that you have the ability to play. I think the better your team's going to be in the long haul, especially down the stretch when I think it's hard to play every snap when you play offensive line. So I kind of don't know that answer yet. I think we're still trying to figure out exactly, who, where, and how much, and when adjustments need to be made.
How tough was it to go back and watch the film and see some of those key drops from receivers?
To me, I think that's football, and obviously you can look at a million different plays of what if, so-and-so blocked a little bit better here. What if you had a better play call here? And so I think a drop pass is something that is, it's visible, right? So I think, that obviously becomes a thing, but I don't think, I think that the mistakes that are made in the game, I think that's just another mistake that was made in the game. So I think they're all painful, regardless of whatever. Maybe it was a coaching mistake, maybe it was a mistake that maybe you didn't coach well enough, or whatever it may be. But we certainly didn't lose the game because we dropped passes. I think it's a team effort at all times. Everybody on the field counts, everybody on offense counts, and I think that's probably an easy thing to blame because you saw it, but you probably didn't see so-and-so missing a block or missing an assignment or whatever it may be. So it's no more painful than, if you coach offensive line, pretty much every play is going to be painful. You got 5 opportunities to be painful, so it's no more painful than any other play.
Have you thought about what it would be like to be able to go back through the film and watch just tally up David Montgomery and I guess yards after contact?
I haven't.
How big of a challenge would that be?
I think it'd probably be a pretty good challenge. He runs really hard, and I think that's obviously, a statistic that I think guys that probably have a little bit more time in the day to handle could handle, because I don't know if that would change anything of the way schematically. And those are things you certainly can't count on, that he wouldn't go down on the first contact. But I think it's just a testament to the kid that he just wants to get every yard he can for the team, and he's gonna try his absolute hardest to get it.
What have been the key factors in your pass protection for the first 2 weeks? Just one sack and not not a massive amount of hurries either.
I'll be honest with you. I think a lot of it goes to the receivers, the quarterback, and the running backs. I think Jacob's doing a really good job of understanding, particularly on third down, where to go with the football, which I think is usually the thing that you get. Oh man, you didn't have many sacks, and usually we're usually blocking people. But I think that a lot of that goes to is the quarterback getting the ball out of his hand on time, and Jacob's doing a really good job of that. And I think our kids are they're working hard right now up front and to get better and continue to get better and addressing the maybe individual needs of what they can get better at. So I think it's a team effort in that regard.
How big was it for Chase to get that first catch?
I was pumped for him. I know Chase, him being a lifelong Iowa State fan and understanding, what it is to play, that team and to go through that and have a catch in a really critical situation. I was just happy for Chase. Hopefully we can get him more involved and keep doing things. But I was pumped for him, and really it was a good catch and a good run after the catch.
To go back to the pass protection, do you want to see a little bit more growth from the offensive line? Will that change what you can do as a play caller in terms of having longer developing routes, or
No,
where is that?
no. I think those guys are doing a really good job, and they're staying on, and they're certainly on schedule. I think of continuing to grow and get better at their craft. Not really. I think our biggest thing is always how do you protect the football and how do you make sure that you're in situations where you're not going to put yourself in negative plays and negative yardage plays, and that for us it's always finding the best way, particularly to protect against whatever team it may be, and making sure we're in the right protections for each team individually. So it's one of those things where I think they're doing a good job, and I think there's always room when you coach offensive line and when you play offensive line. You can find something to get better at all the time. So I think they're working hard and they're trying to get better individually what they got to get better at.
Toledo's defense, obviously they played two very different teams, had two very different results in their first two games. How can you sort of get to the heart of the matter in terms of what they've got over there based on Penn State versus Arkansas Pine Bluff?
Yeah, I think you have to watch the videotape, and I think you have to evaluate what they're doing schematically, and you have to really study each player individually to find out what those things are. And I think results of any games. I think there's so many factors that go into a college football game that unless you're on the inside of every team, you really don't know. And I think you have to make your own assumptions and your own judgments based on what you see, with your own two eyes. And I can tell you, I certainly see a team that's multiple, and I see a team that can really run.
What makes the option work?
I think what's been going there is I think we've done a good job of blocking on the perimeter, and I think Jacobs
With
our
linemen
receivers,
and with
our
there you
receivers,
go,
yeah,
okay.
and I think that Jacob's done a good job of making decisions to get it out there. And then obviously I think David's run really hard. I think Mike had a good one last 2 weeks ago, and I think it's just it's a way to get the ball to the edge and get the ball out, out from the inside a little